seeing something I'm not seeing? Oh, you are? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Dope. So dope.
Okay, I didn't see any of that. Whatever you were seeing, I saw none of it.
It was our usual fabulous intro video created by Brother Maurice Prophet.
Well,
His
literally, I was
studio.
sitting here, and all I saw was me and you.
Well, I mean, that's a great
Nothing.
show too.
But I didn't see any of the intro. That's why I was like, oh, I mean, I saw
No,
the tape, and then it came to us like as if we were live, and
nope.
I'm like saying,
Just
and I'm
watching the
like,
whole intro.
Angel, hello, hello.
I heard you
I,
talking. I was like, I thought you was talking to one of the dogs. I said, what is happening back there?
yeah, I look. I need a new laptop clearly because this is not working out well. Because I was like, mm. And of course I wasn't muted because why
Of course
why
not.
be muted? Why
Why
not?
would you
Why
be muted?
why would I be muted? Of course not. Anyways, hi everybody.
Hey,
Welcome to
Greg.
Mentali-Tea, the month of March. Right, we still in March. Okay. Whew. Episode 2 of season 2.
Dos, dos.
Dos.
You about to get a double shot.
I'm gonna need a double shot after that when I didn't even see the intro. And I'm sitting here like, okay, what's
You
going
know what you
on?
look like. You'll be all
I
right.
mean, I didn't have to talk though. I was like, yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, so you got your tea today. What
I
you got your
do.
tea? What you got tonight? What you got tonight?
You know what? I stopped off because I knew I didn't have any new tea. I stopped off and got new tea just for you all.
Ooh,
And because I
ooh,
was hungry, and when I saw this, I had to have it. Hold, and there.
glaze. Ooh, I know how you feel about lemon loaf
You know
too.
how I feel about lemon.
I do know.
So lemon cake, you know,
In a tea at this
glazed
point.
lemon loaf tazo. This is the dessert delights.
Okay.
And I have this beautiful mug here.
Oh,
Was a birthday present, a
has
late
to
birthday
be.
present from the lovely Chrissy Johnson because she
Listen.
knows who I am. And it came with this. I have no crumpets though. I need
You need,
you don't have
need some
tea, you
kind of
don't have
something.
crumpets. And I got my
Dessert.
water, of course, that's mine though. My
Yes.
water, is there. But let's get into this.
Yes. How is that? Is it lemon loaf in a mug? Basically.
Kinda, yeah. Kinda, yeah. It
Interesting.
tastes like liquid dessert. And I only
You
dropped
just
one
gotta
spoon of honey because I've been real
you
good
just put
this
the
last
rim,
month.
put some glaze around the rim, like
No,
a
mm-mm. One spoon of honey because I have been really good this month. I dropped 7 pounds
oh, very good.
unintentionally by
Well,
way of association to somebody else who's doing this program thing. But
mm,
7 pounds came off my body because we always eat together and we ain't eating the same thing. So one spoon of honey today.
yeah, yeah. Okay.
I like that. I
Good.
think this would go great with some glazed lemon loaf.
There you
feel
go.
like it feel like it should have something with it.
There
What's
you
she
go.
drinking?
So yes, after I don't know how many months, Angel and I finally got to have dinner together. And so her birthday present was her birthday, her Christmas, like it was just like a bunch of it was just all wrapped in one. That's what it because she had my birthday gift that was anyway. So number
Mhm.
one, I've got that shirt on that you got me. It says have a cup of positivity, and it's got
Awesome. That's
on it.
dope. I got a dope shirt. Uh, Demand more
More.
for mental health.
I love
That's
it.
the shirt I'm rocking tonight.
And
Demand more.
in addition to this shirt, Angel got me 4 different new kinds of teas, and this is
Is
one
it
of them.
fancy?
This is the
Sips.
hibiscus orange.
Sips.
And I'm drinking it out of this mug that I got a few months ago. And I'll let you all, I'm just going to show it to you and leave it right at there. It says, it shouldn't have to happen to you for it to matter to you.
Oof.
And I'm going to sip my tea on that.
I'm gonna sip with you because we need that shot. You know, hey.
And and I'm going to leave it there.
Yes,
So,
the t-shirt.
yes. And it's very good. It's got hibiscus, orange peel, lemon verbena, elderflower. You know how I feel about my elderflower, and stevia leaf. So it tastes better than it smells.
It's stank. You got stanky
It,
tea.
it doesn't smell great, but it tastes great.
Oh my God. Now I don't know about that because I can't eat something that don't smell good to me.
But
If it
see,
don't
here's
smell
the
good,
thing.
I'm not putting it in my mouth.
That's the wine person in me, because a wine could smell awful and taste delicious, and smell
Nope,
delicious
nope,
and taste
nope, nope.
awful.
I'm not
So
happy.
yeah, it tastes great though.
If you say
So
so, Chrissy.
I'm just
I
saying.
don't know.
I'm just saying. Anyway,
You
so
say so.
let's get this show on the road. We've got a lot to talk about.
Oh, we do. Oh, we do. And
And
this
you're
this
starting it this month because you had me start last time. So
awesome. I will kick it off. Hit the timer. Yeah, this was a rabbit hole. You talk about rabbit holes a lot when you're looking for information and researching topics. I knew very little about this topic. So when I started digging. So we're gonna blow some minds here. Some of y'all might be a little disgusted at the end, but I'm just give you a little warning, okay? So this month of March, it is Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Awareness Month. Chronic Fatigue Syndrome Awareness, also known as CFS, also known as myalgic encephalomyelitis. That's the only time I'm gonna say that word. Called ME. They call it ME. All right. Chronic fatigue syndrome. It is a long-term illness that affects the body. Severe fatigue and sleep problems. Not able to do normal activities or regular activities. Often leaves people confined to the bed. Okay. So some of these symptoms, well, I'll give you causes first. A change to a person's immune system and the way it responds to infection or stress. So when I started digging, and there's a documentary I'm going to be talking about in a minute. A lot of people started with the flu, or what they thought was the flu, and after a few weeks, they didn't recover. It's like either you recovered or you didn't recover, and when they didn't recover, it turned into or developed into this. Um, it shares some features of autoimmune diseases, and those are diseases where the immune system attacks healthy tissues in the body, like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, Lyme disease, fibromyalgia. So these are some of
Oof.
the illnesses that it resembles, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no X-ray, blood test, or diagnostic test to accurately diagnose someone with chronic fatigue syndrome. Okay. So
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you about some of this history, but I want you to keep that in the forefront of your mind. There is no test that accurately diagnoses this illness. All right. So some of the symptoms start with the crash, like we talked about. Immune system breaking down, not being able to recover from some other infection, like the flu. There's a crash that happens where your body just starts shutting down. It causes fatigue and weakness. It causes sensitivity to light and or sound. It causes muscle and joint pain. It causes insomnia. It causes forgetfulness and brain fog. It causes the inability to concentrate or focus, and headaches. So when you listen to those, you hear those symptoms, think
Mhm.
about all these other autoimmune diseases. First thing I thought about was lupus because I work with a lot of people in the lupus community, and brain fog, fatigue, muscle pain, forgetfulness, not being able to focus, all of these things were symptoms for something else. Same with Lyme disease. I know people who have been living with and suffering from Lyme disease. Some of
Mhm.
these symptoms are the same.
Mhm.
So imagine how hard it was for this illness to be diagnosed when it resembles so many other things.
Mhm.
So here's the history. You ready for the rabbit hole?
I'm ready. Lord knows it happens to the best of us.
First reports of this illness fitting the description date back to the 1750. They called it little fever.
1750.
1750 was the earliest
Wow.
case of an illness that fit this description.
Mm.
There was an outbreak in LA in 1934. The illness resembled polio. So
Interesting.
people were being misdiagnosed with polio. There was
Okay.
an outbreak in a London hospital in 1955 when they finally named it ME. That word I said, I'm not going to say it again.
That word you
Myalgic
should have been here listening to before.
encephalomyelitis. Okay, I'm not going to do that again. There was an outbreak in Lake Tahoe, Nevada in the 1980s. They called it yuppie flu. This is where the derogatory term started coming in. They called it yuppie flu,
Just
burnout, hypochondria, and then they started diagnosing it as something that was just in the mind. It's all in your head.
interesting. So, really quick to piggyback off of that,
You
because I
can.
know I know you're a big Golden Girls fan like me. I'm just kidding. You're not. Jessica Jessica Cage is. So if she's
Jessica
watching,
Cage. Shout
Jessica, if
out to
you're
Jessica
watching, shout
Cage.
out to Jessica. You know what I'm about to say. There was an episode of Golden Girls
I can give you the song. That's it.
where where Dorothy was feeling like just run down and tired all the time. And she knew something was wrong with her. And she went to a doctor and he said, it's just in your head, blah, 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 blah. So she ended up going to a different specialist. And that's when he actually said, no, there's actually an ailment called chronic fatigue syndrome. And I do believe that's what you had. And then fast forward, she ends up running into the first doctor in a restaurant and just lays it out on him and
I
says,
can imagine.
like you suck as a doctor, basically
And he
trying to tell me
did.
it was all in my head. And she's saying, if I were a man, maybe you would have taken me more seriously or whatever. I was like, okay, Dorothy, right? And that was in the 80s.
And that's part of this hole I'm about to go down.
Go
But
ahead.
go ahead, keep going.
That was
So
it. So
this the documentary that I watched, and there is one documentary out there called Unrest. So if you're able to look that up, Unrest, it is not free, so that's not the one I watched. But the one that I did watch was on Tubi, which
it
is
was
free.
not free 99.
Um,
It was
it was
not
not
free
free
99.
99.
Okay. All right. Well,
And it's titled Chronic Fatigue Syndrome and Me. And this is a rather lengthy documentary. It's over an hour. And it gives some of these same facts that I was researching are coming up in this show as well. So starting from the point where it's all in your mind. Okay. So many of our historic diseases and ailments, if there was no physical proof of it, there's no test, it doesn't show up on X-ray, it doesn't show up in your blood, it doesn't show up anywhere, they would start to classify them as mental illnesses. So if it's something that cannot be proven to be an actual physical thing, then it must be a psychiatric thing. And that's when they started, sending people to psychiatrists and therapists to treatment. And most of the response was it's in your mind. There's no proof. I don't see anything happening. You say you feel like you're on fire. There's no fire. It's nothing going. You're not hot. This is
Right.
all something has to be in your head, right? Try telling people that are in chronic pain that their pain is not real. Um, Part of this documentary showed people that had, and it was testimonies of people, and they didn't even call them patients. They called them sufferers. So it was, John
Makes
blah blah
sense.
blah sufferer, and it was like, oh my god. Um,
That's a little
there was
harsh.
there was one lady I remember had been bedridden for 4 years,
4 years?
confined to her room, lights off, curtains drawn, could not be touched. You could not touch her. She was in the bed. She was under the
Wow.
cover. And someone had to come in when they started, new developments and new testing. Someone had to come in, to take her blood or whatever. She's like, can you imagine no one touching you for 4 years? She could not be touched. There was people who
Wow.
could not leave their room. She's like, my world is 3 by 6, whatever. She's like, basically, I live in a coffin.
Yeah.
She
Wow.
didn't leave her room. She didn't leave that bed. She had a chair for the bathroom purposes, and it was like a pan of soapy water under the chair for her to wash up, use the bathroom, and get back in the bed. And the nurse will come in and change that, or caretaker will come in
Wow.
and change that. So when you don't know much about it, you just think it's people. You think of fibromyalgia, you think about people that are in pain or
Mhm.
having extra sensitivity. But I never once thought about someone who was confined to the bed. And doctors were telling people that it was all in their head. You're making this up. Somebody else was sick, and you started feeling sick too. We're going into that.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, the first. I need some more light on here. They first categorized this as depressive symptoms. So if it sounds like depression and it sounds like anxiety, automatically mental illness. Nothing that's physical, because I see no proof.
Right.
Um, and
Hence why
any
it was an invisible illness.
yes, and any attempt at explaining the medically unexplained would gear towards psychiatry. So that's what it was. If they couldn't explain it medically, it must be mental.
Hmm.
Following? Okay. So here comes the term, page 2, mass hysteria, which was also used to reference these types of illnesses. Mass hysteria is a contagious dissociative phenomena that take place in large groups of people or institutions under conditions of anxiety. Something that happens suddenly, mysterious symptoms, outbreaks happening everywhere. Sound
Yeah.
familiar?
Not at all.
No, doesn't sound familiar. This
Nah.
is very akin to the pandemic that we have been
Yeah.
experiencing in the last 3 years. And it started, with mass hysteria.
Yeah.
People were walking around with milk jugs covering their faces, thinking, they didn't know what it was. Everything
Yeah.
is airborne. Um,
Hi, Martha. Martha's
hey,
here. Hi,
hi,
Martha.
Martha. But people didn't know what
She's
it
one of
was.
our biggest fans, y'all. You guys got to keep up with her. I'm just saying.
Awesome.
She's here. Anyway,
Yeah, but
yes, because I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, our producer, Mr. Prophet, posted uh, uh, the pictures of like back when things first happened. People wearing
yes, I saw that. Scuba suits. Wearing a
yeah.
scuba suit, Mariano's, and some things were extreme. They were. They was walking around in suits and come on, maxi
I mean the
pads,
milk jug. I mean the maxi
milk
pads, the
jug.
milk jugs.
Come on
Yes,
now. I saw a party hat on somebody's cone on somebody's face.
party hat. Yes,
And these were
yeah,
extreme measures, but it was a very
mm-hmm.
real pandemic. There was a very
Yeah,
real disease that was
yeah,
out. There was very real illnesses with very real deaths.
yeah,
But when it first when it first started, it's like, I don't believe it. I believe it when I see it, and then you saw it. You know,
yeah.
So
Anyway,
that was
yeah.
this is how chronic fatigue syndrome started. It started as mass hysteria. Um, because they were classifying it as a nervous disorder, something that was psychological, not physical. So, give you some stats, and then I'll take you down this hole. Okay. 836,000 to 2.5 million Americans suffer from chronic fatigue syndrome.
That's a lot of people.
90% of people with chronic fatigue syndrome are undiagnosed. 90%
90%.
are undiagnosed, maybe even misdiagnosed, but it said
Wow.
undiagnosed. It is most common in 20 to 40-year-olds and most common in professional active women.
Interesting.
I'm coming back to women. It is more common in the UK, Australia, and the USA. There are over 200,000 cases in the UK.
Wow.
So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
So, when you talk about hysteria, that
Hmm.
was another term that was used to define these mysterious symptoms that people were having. Um, and because it was more common in women, women were the ones that were at the doctor more often.
Hmm.
So, hysteria is defined as the first mental disorder attributed to women. First mental disorder attributed to women. Okay.
Interesting.
Um, Causes of mass hysteria in women may include how they're socialized to cope with stress and the frequency they seek medical care, the fact that they see it more often. During the late 1800s through the early 1900s, physicians administered pelvic massages that included clitoral stimulation by early electronic vibrators as treatments for what was called female hysteria.
So, okay, go on.
Pelvic massage forcing women to orgasm to release excess fluid using leeches on the abdomen to reduce blood in the womb. And the other form of treatment was marriage.
You know what, sis? You're crazy. Why don't you get married? That'll help your hysteria. Oh my God. Okay.
And some of the symptoms were
Wow.
painful cramps and
You think?
paralysis without any physical explanation. That was part of some of these other
Oh my
autoimmune
God.
type symptoms that were happening. Um, and it also was present in young girls. So if you had young girls who were experiencing these symptoms, can you imagine? They were also being
Oh
treated the same
my
way,
God.
or they were advised to get married because clearly sex is the answer to everything. And if you are having pain in your body, it's obvious that what you need is more
It's
orgasms.
more, yeah,
Now,
right.
let me give you a modern day uh, physician's advice.
Modern
Um,
day. That would be nice
I
because
had surgery to remove fibroids in January 2012.
okay.
Yes, January
Yes.
2012. Okay. Yes, yes. I believe that was the year.
Hmm.
Um, the pain that I was living had been living with for 3 years. It was cramping all the time, outside of the time it should be cramping all of the
Hmm.
time. After the surgery and my post-op, like my second post-op appointment, I was being asked, had the cramping stopped, cycle lighter. But no, it
Mm.
was not. It was not. It was not lighter. It was no, the cramps were the same. They weren't as frequent, but they were the same. They were still just as, painful, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, I was diagnosed with possible adeno Adenomyosis. 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 I love to say things wrong. Adenomyosis. For which there is no treatment. Well, there is no cure, but there's no the treatment plan that I was given outside of pain medication and hot baths was more orgasms
Oh, come on.
because it releases the stress and
I'm
literally
sorry, but when
this
you're in
was a
pain, the last thing you're
last thing
thinking
you
about
want to
having
do
is an
is
orgasm.
an orgasm. This
Okay,
was a
that is the last
young
thing on your mind.
This was a young female doctor, experienced young female doctor who gave
Listen,
me the paperwork for yoga. That was also on the list. Yoga, stretches, hot baths, and
okay,
orgasms to reduce tension in that area.
listen. Mm-mm. I mean, no yoga. I mean, whatever. No, if you're in pain, especially in that region, you don't want to like even
Be
be touched.
touched like that lady
You
been
don't,
in her room for four
right?
years. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh no.
So what real treatments are out there and available and being suggested besides devices, orgasms, and leeches, and marriage, of
Leeches,
course.
leeches, and marriage.
Medication to relieve the symptoms, much like medication that anybody with an autoimmune disease would take. Pain meds for headaches and joint and muscle pain. Vitamins and supplements that might ease some of those same symptoms. All of these things here may improve, but you may not make a full recovery. There was
Okay.
no information about people being cured.
Right.
Um, Nothing that was legit that I saw. People being cured or people making a full recovery. And if
Hmm.
they did have any of these symptoms, according to the documentary, it's like if you can get over it in 3 weeks, you're out of the clear. If it's been 3 weeks and you're still feeling those symptoms, this is now a lifelong illness. And
And
the only treatment is
gentlemen,
medication.
you gotta be lucky that you don't have a uterus. I mean, honestly,
But there were men.
seriously.
There were men that were interviewed. There were men on the video. There were men in the documentary. There are
Okay,
men that
but
have been diagnosed with this, but it's more
oh,
common
and you tell a
with
man
the
you're gonna have to
uterus,
have more orgasms. He's gonna be like, okay,
okay,
no
until
problem.
he tries it and passes out.
I
Um,
mean, no
Now
offense to
going,
you, our producer Maurice. This does not include you. You're in your league of your own. You're not lumped in the umbrella of men we're talking about. You in your own world, in a different level.
now going back to medication to relieve the symptoms and the pain meds for headaches and joint and muscle pain. I know women who live with lupus, which is an autoimmune disease, who take 18 to 25 pills each day.
Oof.
And they still struggle with fatigue, weakness, sensitivity to light, muscle and joint pain, forgetfulness and brain fog, insomnia, inability to concentrate and focus, and headaches. 18 to
Wow.
25 pills each day. And this list
And this
still
still
applies
goes.
to
Wow.
their everyday life. They still have only so much energy they can give. They call themselves spoonies because this how much they got. They got this much energy today.
Yeah.
Maybe they got 2 spoons. Maybe they got 5 spoons. Spoonies. So
Wow.
how much energy do you have today? And when they talk about the crash, some of the sufferers on the video, they would be feeling good. Oh, I got some more energy. Oh, I feel like I can clean the kitchen. Let me, and then boom, they
Wow.
thought they thought they had more energy, and then the crash hits, and they're out for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month.
That's crazy. That's nuts.
So the name of the documentary is Chronic Fatigue Syndrome and Me. It is free on Tubi.
To be.
On Tubi, if you have it.
Hmm.
Um, I
Wow.
would invite you to check it out. Check it
Yeah.
out. Follow the
Check
rabbit
that out.
hole. I've never
Follow.
been
Yeah.
more intrigued by this hole I went down
Mhm.
today. Mass hysteria, female hysteria.
That's crazy. And you know the reason why, ladies, why we go to the doctor more, and this is just my opinion, is we're not stubborn. Because I'll tell you, perfect example, my husband is stubborn. He doesn't like going to the doctor. Because, well, what if I get back? Listen, just you need to get your physical. You need to know you keep up so that you don't get bad news. But if you're constantly going to stop yourself from going to the doctor because you're afraid, oh, what if the doctor tells me this, that, and the other thing? Well, would you rather know now when you could do something about it or when it's too late to do something about it? And then kick yourself in the ass and say, oh, I should have gone to, I should have, would have, could have. You know what I'm saying?
But you know
And
what? At the
I just,
same time,
that's just my opinion. That is my opinion. I
at the
could be wrong.
same
Right
time,
now.
yes, they are stubborn in that aspect. But at the same time, women women are very guilty of putting off going to the doctor, putting off surgery, putting off medical procedures because they take care of everybody else.
That's
Did you hear me
selfish.
say I had been walking around for 3 years in
That's so true.
pain? Because I
Hmm.
knew if I had the surgery, I was going to be off work.
Right.
Now, I had good insurance, plus
Hmm.
Aflac, plus, I had good insurance. I wasn't worried about money. That wasn't the issue. I was
Yeah.
worried about if my job was still going to be there when I went back because recovery time was, 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I can drive at 2.5 to 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. I was back at work at 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It might have been sooner than that, but
Well,
it was. I did not go past the 5 week part to
and then
go.
that's another problem because you want to get back to it, then you're pushing yourself too
No,
soon.
no, I didn't want to get back to it. I felt
had
like
to. You felt like you
I was
had
being
to.
pressured. I was being
Right.
pressured. Um, I didn't feel like there was compassion
Right.
because I had to take off work. Because that was the first thing I said when I laid out. Got to have surgery. This is the situation. This is the recovery time. Well, who's gonna?
And
That
that's
was the response I got.
unfortunately that is true. That is true in a work environment. And so that that then yes, either we put it off or we do it, but then we push ourselves to come back too soon and we're not fully healed,
Nope.
which then causes a whole nother slew of
Yep.
issues, right? That just
Hmm.
delays the healing process,
Hmm. Absolutely.
that's got to stop. Like, you know
Has
what I
to.
mean?
It
and
has to.
and because if we can't take care of ourselves, and that's the other thing, you know what I'm saying? Like, I see that meme all the time. If you were to get hit by a bus tomorrow, that job is going to be posted the very next day. They don't
Same
care.
day.
They don't care.
Same day. You gone. You
Same
out of
day.
here.
Yeah.
They
You
might
know what
send
I mean?
flowers. They might, but
Yeah.
that's it. They're replacing you. You are replaceable. And it
Yeah.
is unfortunate, when we're living in a time, especially now, post pandemic or sort of, where everybody's understaffed.
Yeah.
My struggles. We've been understaffed
Yeah.
since the pandemic. So when I think
Yeah.
about having to take off again because I need a second surgery, think about
Yeah.
having to take off again. It's like I'm gonna be gone for
Yeah.
4 weeks. Period. That's minimum. I'm gonna be gone for four
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing now that I'm in a position where I can work from home. But for those who cannot,
Right.
if something happens,
Yeah.
they have nothing else. And
It's
the
true.
reality is, if you don't take care of your body and get the proper medical care. Doctors who understand the condition and can
Right.
diagnose properly and treat properly without fingers and devices and husbands,
And
um,
leeches.
and leeches. Okay. Um, what do?
Uh,
You won't be
right.
here.
Right.
Never mind if the job is going to be here. You
Right.
won't be here
Right.
unless you step up and take care of yourself. So that is that's all I got.
Wow. That was a lot. That was heavy. You
That's
just came right out the gate, just like, all right,
I
you ready?
warned
We're
you.
gonna
I
go.
gave you a
We're gonna
warning.
go.
I gave you a warning.
Good grief. I didn't know. Like extra warning next time, like double warning.
Like I thought we were talking
Wow.
about fatigue. No, we talking
Yeah, I'm
about
like, I thought we were talking about fatigue. I didn't know we
talk
were
about
going down that
devices.
road.
No.
Now we're talking about
Leeches.
simulations and stuff. And
I can't wait to sum this up. We chatted about
yes.
like where the leeches come from. Catch the replay.
Exactly. Leeches and stimulation. Just catch the replay. I mean, I got nothing for you.
Just telling you what I found. It's my
Wow.
research.
Well, that was great research that people are definitely going to want to. I bet you people are going to be like, is this true? They're going to be looking this stuff up. Like, I bet you Maurice is doing that right now. Like, there's probably looking it up. Is this true?
Google female hysteria and treatment, and you might find an illustration. You don't want that.
I don't need an illustration. I got plenty of an illustration in my brain. That's good enough. Good grief. Oh man.
Terrible.
No, thank you. No.
How many doctors were getting off on that? Or misdiagnosing anything. Oh, this is hysteria. Let me handle this. I'll handle it, Johnson. I bet.
Why you gotta say Johnson? Like what?
I'm sorry.
There's other doctor names out there. It's too close to my name, bro.
It was a play on words for John.
Yes, yeah.
Not Johnston. Okay.
I know. I get it. Oh man. Well.
Moving on.
Well, now moving on. Next topic of discussion is traumatic brain injuries. It is Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month as well. But I know we talked about it. I was going to focus on the epilepsy part of traumatic TBIs. Because obviously when we hear about TBIs, the first thing we think of are concussions, right? Obviously that's like one of the first things. Sports, car accidents, stuff like that. What people don't really know a lot of. So my youngest daughter, Jasmine, for those of you who don't know her, she has epilepsy. And her epilepsy is caused by a traumatic brain injury. Now, how did she get that traumatic brain injury, you ask? That's a great question. We have no idea. Yes. So I do have very minimal statistics because after the last time, my statistics have dropped way down. But so let's rewind to when she was born. She was born maybe 3 weeks early. She was like 36 and 6. So she was right one day from reaching term. Anyway. So 9 months old, she had a febrile seizure. And for people who don't know what febrile seizures are, it is when, and it's very common in children, babies and children, when the fever spikes too rapidly and the body just goes into shock, it can cause a seizure. My oldest, Monica, used to have them, but she outgrew them when she was 3. So Jasmine had her first one when she was 9 months old, and she looked like a fish out of water. It was the scariest thing. Got her to the hospital. She ended up, it came from the fact that she had an ear infection. Didn't even know it, but that's how her fever just out of the blue. Fast forward to 12 months old. She was maybe 1 or 2 days shy of her first birthday. She had another one. But this one lasted a lot longer. This one lasted closer to like 15, 20 minutes. And anything over, because a febrile seizure should only last a few minutes, less than 5. that anything over that is then considered complex febrile seizure. Um, and so they had to transfer us to a different hospital that had a pediatric intensive care unit. And they did an MRI on her. And they found on the left side of her brain, they found a scar tissue. And it was just noted as a finding. Just a finding. They didn't have that scar tissue noted as anything super significant, just whatever. So that didn't sit well with me. You know what I mean? Because, when you're a parent, you start Googling everything. And you start Googling, well, what does this mean? What does that mean? It's like, it's just a rabbit hole that you don't want to go down, but you do. And so, we kept up with the neurologist or whatever, and they still didn't officially diagnose her with epilepsy, because anytime she would have these seizures, it was accompanied with a fever, right? They still gave us emergency medication for her, nothing that she was going to have to take on a consistent basis. And we went through the gambit with her the first 4 years of her life. We just went to different doctors. Maybe it's something gastrointestinal. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Like, she had been through so many tests by the time she was 2.5 years old. This child had an endoscopy.
What's that?
Okay. An endoscopy is when they knock you out and they stick a camera down your esophagus all the way down to check your, like when you have acid reflux or whatever. So, I mean, this kid had been through the gambit. So they're like, oh yeah, maybe she has some acid reflux. So we're going to put her on, they had her on Prevacid. They had the baby on Prevacid, Zantac. Okay. But she still had these episodes every month. It was just very strange. Like, she would just like her body would get like super hot to the touch, but she wouldn't have a fever. And she would like have these like partial like moments, and it always happened at night. And she couldn't really verbalize what was going on because she was like a baby, she was like within her first 4 years. So finally at 4 years old, she had one that was, I mean, again, she was super hot to the touch. Her temperature was normal. I kept checking it. Even when the paramedics got there, like, oh, she's hot. And then they checked her temperature and they're like, but she doesn't have a fever. I said, I know, like, I don't know what the hell. So we gave her emergency meds, didn't help, got her to the hospital. They had to give her 2 rounds of phenobarbital to calm her down from the seizure she was having. And for those that don't know what phenobarbital is, that's a very strong narcotic drug.
Not for children.
No, but that's the only thing that got her to stop. And again, we got transferred to another hospital that had the pediatric unit, and they did another MRI, whatever. And lo and behold, that scar tissue that they found when she was a year old,
The finding that wasn't removed.
Well, no. But the finding was the cause of what was going on. And so then she was formally diagnosed with epilepsy at that point because it wasn't accompanied with a fever. And so the epileptologist comes to me, and I'm on like no sleep, none. And he's like, so here's what we can do. We can remove the scar tissue and she'll be 100% cured. Don't tell me 100% anything in the medical world, because that's a bunch of baloney. There's nothing that's 100%. And you're telling me you want to do brain surgery on my 4-year-old, like on sleep deprivation. Like, I'm like, So no, we're not doing that right now. So we went for a second opinion to Lurie Children's. Thank God, they're a great hospital. And so they did another, like they had to do all of their tests. And also in addition to that, they did a PET scan. And the PET scan is where they
I know what a PET scan is. I don't know what a PET scan is.
So a PET scan is where they, and this is a little like, whatever, but they inject you with radioactive dye to see what things are
Mhm.
functioning and what are not. It's a much more involved scan than like an EEG or a CAT scan or anything like that. It's more detailed. And so the PET scan showed that she had little to no brain activity happening on the left side of her brain because of this scar tissue. And so they considered that a TBI, traumatic brain injury. Now, here's the kicker. When they first found it, the neurologist said, you know, we don't know what it's like the chicken versus the egg. We don't know what came first, the scar tissue or the febrile seizures. He's like, but what I can tell you is the type of scar tissue she's showing, that's something that we wouldn't see on a child till they're like almost 5 or 6 years old. Because they would have had to have like repetitive seizures for that to happen. This child, it was found on her when she was a year old. And I'm just like,
And there were no seizures before one?
before 9 months old.
For 9 months.
Right. And they wouldn't have seen it when in ultrasound, being pregnant, whatever. So we still don't know if this is something she had or something she developed in a very short amount of time. So going to Lori's, they're like, we'll go, the more conservative approach. We don't need to jump right into surgery because at that point, the benefits, the risks outweighed the benefits with that. You know what I mean? Because it would have affected her cognitive function. It would have, there was just a bunch of things. And it's like, let's put her on medication first and just see how she does, and go that route. And so that's what we ended up doing. And so she gets her follow-up care, whatever. But that is always in her head, in her brain, that scar tissue.
Still there.
So it's still there. And it's like, it's not at the point where it needs to be removed, knock on wood, but that's not something that's ever off the table. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's not something we're rushing to do.
And what was the procedure that she just had? Well, the testing. What was the testing she just had?
She had an EEG. And an EEG is where they connect all those electrodes to your head and wrap it. And then it just like reads your brain waves for like hers was like a 24-hour period to see for spikes, to see if there was any seizure activity.
How often does she have to have that?
It used to be every year. And now it's every 18 months. 15 to 18 months.
Okay, so less frequently is good.
Less frequently. We are supposed to go for another MRI in June. She hasn't had one of those since she was 4. So I'm going to be very interested to see what else going on in there now. Mm-hmm. But, I wanted to definitely bring awareness to the fact that not all traumatic brain injuries happen from concussions. It's something that was just internal and it alters her brain function. And so I have a little bit of statistics, not a lot, but and the funny thing I found is I could not find anything past the year 2020. And I don't know if it's because of the pandemic.
Not a lot of it is,
what I'm saying?
Any statistics.
Yeah.
Finding them after 2020 has been difficult.
Yeah. So one of the things I read that was very interesting is there are more than 5.3 million individuals in the United States who are living with a permanent brain injury related disability. That's 1 in every 60 people. At least 2.8 million Americans sustain traumatic brain injuries in the United States every year. So yeah, it's and then let's see, there are 2 types of acquired brain injury, traumatic and non-traumatic. So examples of traumatic include falls, assaults, motor vehicle accidents, sports injuries. So if I got Maurice involved, we would talk about wrestling because those wrestlers get concussions, those football players, like,
Mhm.
you know. Um, let's see, a non-traumatic brain injury. Um, examples of those are stroke, near drowning, aneurysm, tumor, infectious disease that affects the brain, like meningitis, lack of oxygen supply to the brain. So, it comes in many different forms. So it's not always just cut cut and dry, you know. Um, let's see. About 176 Americans died from TBI related injury each day in 2020. Each day, 176. Yeah. In 2019, about 15% of all US high school students self reported one or more sports or recreation related concussion within the preceding 12 months.
Mhm. And that's probably underreported,
Oh, very much, especially if it's
especially in. Oh
self
yeah.
reporting. Yeah. Um, so one thing, I was looking up questions too, and it says, can a TBI cause mental illness years later? And it said findings showed rates as high as 48.3% for any psychiatric disorder starting after the traumatism, and major depression was the most common diagnosis. TBA may cause decades lasting vulnerability to psychiatric disorders in some individuals. And this other one, what are the four main types of mental health problems after a TBI? Depression, anxiety, suicide, and substance use disorders. Um, and that is, yes, because not only are you dealing with the TBI, but then if you're taking the medications, like Jasmine has her anti-epilepsy medications, the side effects from that, one of the side effects from her medication is depression, suicidal thoughts, and that's not even at the bottom of the list. Like, it's like within the first few, changes in behavior, changes in mood, all of this.
A lot of these medications, if you watch these commercials,
Oh, good
a lot
grief.
of these medications
Yeah.
are reporting those same
Yeah.
symptoms: suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety, insomnia. Why are we taking it?
Right. Yeah.
It's stopping one thing but creating 10 other problems. Anal
Exactly.
leakage, oily discharge. Come on now.
Yeah.
It's too much.
And then I found this question, which I just thought was interesting because I thought it was interesting. You would find it interesting.
Oh,
It's just the
me.
correlation. I just thought you would find this very interesting.
Okay,
The
I'm listening.
question was, can brain injury cause narcissism? Traumatic brain injuries can cause
First of all,
behavioral problems and
you
personality
were right.
disorders. The most common post
You were
TBI
absolutely
personality disorders were borderline avoidant, paranoid, obsessive compulsive, and narcissistic. I
you
saw
are
that and I was like,
absolutely
I need to
correct that
bring
I
that
would be
up
interested
because you would be
in.
very interested in that.
And
Because you wrote a whole book about it.
one of the things that happens, our brains are plastic, so they are always
Yes.
changing. They can be altered. If
Yes.
you are doing one thing one way all the time, it creates that pathway in your
Yeah.
brain, and it will always deviate to that same pathway, that same behavior, those same
Yep.
actions every time. If there is an
Yep.
injury and it that is a shift, that is something that has changed and altered neurons, brave waves,
Hmm.
functions, all that. If it changes anything in your brain, then it's going to change behavior.
Yeah.
It was
So
interesting.
another, oh, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
No,
Mm.
go ahead.
One of the things that with the chronic fatigue syndrome, one of the things that they were trying with their psychotherapy and uh, whatever was cognitive behavior therapy. They
Hmm.
were using that as a treatment plan for people that had real pain. as
Yeah.
if you change what you're doing, if you change, you know, how you believe, or your perception of what's actually happening, you
Hmm.
know, you change your habits and form new habits, then it will go away. And
Right.
obviously that didn't happen. It wasn't
No.
working, because
Right.
what you're still saying is this is not real.
Right. Well, and then a very interesting thing, like when Jasmine first got diagnosed, so I always was like, okay, it's on the left side of her brain. So what is that going to affect, right? And the word that kept getting thrown around was neuroplasticity. Because she was so young, because she
Mm-hmm.
is so young, yes, because the question is, can the brain rewire itself after a traumatic brain injury? And it's yes.
Mm-hmm.
Its a brain is resilient and possesses the ability to repair itself through the process of neuroplasticity. And the younger you are, the more likely that is. That's why when children, you know, get diagnosed with epilepsy at such a young age, majority of them will outgrow it as they get to be older teenagers. Unfortunately, in Jasmine's situation, because it's a scar tissue that's causing the problem, she won't outgrow it. But if it's a genetic reason, or if it's something that's not from within, like it's just the electrical stuff is just off, chances are they will outgrow it because the brain is just able to do that. And I find
Mm-hmm.
that incredibly fascinating. And so when I was looking up left brain, right, the left brain helps you with logic, sequencing, linear thinking, mathematics, facts, thinking in words.
Mm-hmm.
And the right brain is
It's
more
creative.
imagination, holistic thinking, arts, rhythm, daydreaming, all of that. Now, ask me what subject this child is the best in at school. After I just told you what the left brain is in charge of and where that scar tissue is, ask me what her best subject is in school.
Math
Math. Math,
on
and
the
she's an
other
advanced.
side.
I'm going to tell you what, the right side of her brain has compensated so much for her left side. It's
Fascinating.
astounding. It is astounding. It just like it just amazes me what this brain can do, and the fact that like she's so logical. She's so logical in the way she thinks. She's so matter of fact, that it's just like wow. You know, but also there are some things that perhaps the right brain has compensated for the left, but then the right brain is lacking because
Mm.
she does not necessarily understand, sarcasm, or she does take things too personally and too to heart, which then borders because epilepsy and autism kind of
Mm.
comorbidities.
Mm.
So that, because when I think of like the nonverbal cues and whatever, I know you don't watch Big Bang Theory, but Sheldon, he was one of the main characters. People who watch the show always thought that perhaps that was something that he had underlying in his character because he didn't get sarcasm. He didn't like to be touched. He was very, whatever. Um,
Yeah, I'm familiar with Sheldon. I didn't watch it regularly, but I watched it enough to know him.
yeah. So, so it's like it's very, and there's that fine line because, even when we've talked to the therapist and have filled out forms, she said, you know what? She goes, it's a very fine line because it's like in some cases I could say, sure, she's got some like on spectrum tendencies, but then on the other hand, it's not enough to really say a diagnosis. You know what I mean? But there are some children who it's clear as day, and it just like the brain is just it's incredible to me.
Mm.
Now, what else I was going to say is not only does it affect the person with the TBI mental health, but the caregiver. Because I could tell you for the first 4 years of her life, I didn't sleep because I was always like on alert because everything always happened in the middle of the night,
Mm.
and so, you
Never,
know,
never seizures during the day or anything during the day.
it was very rare. everything always happened later at night.
Was it
And
because of body positioning? Was it because she was laying down?
no,
No.
it's because at night, that's when your things are starting to slow down in your brain anyway, because you're trying to get to
Okay.
sleep, you know? But it was like always on guard, always on alert. You know what I mean? And so as a caregiver, it takes a toll on you mentally as well. And it's just draining, you know?
Mm.
But I do, to wrap up my segment, I do have 9 things not to say to someone with a brain injury. Not to say. Number 1, you seem fine to me.
I feel like
This,
that's also someone with chronic illness.
I mean, they could probably go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The invisible signs of a brain injury, memory and concentration problems, fatigue, insomnia, chronic pain, depression, or anxiety. These are sometimes more difficult to live with than visible disabilities.
Wait, that's all on my list too.
Oh, hey,
Look
look
at
at that.
that. Hey, look at that.
Um, yes. Number 2, maybe you're just not trying hard enough. You're lazy.
Hence the need for
La-
behavioral therapy.
Lazy is not the same as apathy. Apathy is a
Mhm.
disorder and common after a brain injury. Apathy can often get in the way of rehabilitation and recovery, so it's important to recognize and treat it. Um, but do beware of problems that mimic apathy, depression, fatigue, and chronic pain are common after a brain injury. It can look like or be combined with apathy. Number 3, you're such a grump. Irritability is one of the most common signs of a brain injury.
Mm.
Irritability could be the direct result of the brain injury or a side effect of depression, anxiety, chronic pain, sleep disorders, or fatigue.
They're tired and in pain.
Also, also, again, it could be side effect of medications, diet, all of that. Number 4, how many times do I have to tell you? It's frustrating to repeat yourself over and over, but almost everyone who has a brain injury will experience some memory problems. Instead of pointing out a deficit, try finding a solution. Make the task easier. Create a routine. Install a memo board in the kitchen. Also, remember that language isn't always verbal. I've already told you this comes through loud and clear just by a facial expression.
Mm.
Because I'm going to tell you something that drives me insane. So my grandmother passed from Alzheimer's, right? Now, when I looked up the medical term that they said, left hippocampal sclerosis, is exactly what they said they had in that finding. And you look that up, number one thing that pops up is dementia, Alzheimer's, all of this. And so my constant question to these doctors is this something I have to worry about for her down the road as she gets older?
Mm.
So they've assured me not related. So I'm like, okay.
Do you feel like at any point in time that scar tissue will have to be removed?
I mean, I don't know. Like, and that's the other thing too, is they cannot, until they take it out and do a pathology report on it, we won't know how it got there.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they wouldn't be able to say, oh, she was born with it or it came after all of these repetitive seizures. So like, until it's like
Mm.
the mystery. It's like the mystery.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Number 5, do you have any idea how much I do for you? Your loved one probably knows how much you do and feels incredibly guilty about it. It's also possible that your loved one has no clue and may never understand. This can
There's
be due to problems with awareness, memory, or apathy, all of which can be a direct result of a brain injury.
wow.
Number 6, again, this is what not to say to somebody with a brain injury. Number 6, your problem is all the medications you take. So here's my opinion on that. I believe there's room at the table for both homeopathic methods and non-homeopathic methods. I do. I think they can coexist. I don't think one is better than the other, anything like that. There are some things that you cannot heal with herbal teas or essential oils or whatever. There are some things where you do need to have medications. On the other hand, those medications will then have those side effects that you don't want to have. And at
Mm-hmm.
that point, you're in a rock and a hard place. And it's like, well, what do I do? Do I live with the potential side effects that I could get from this medication, or do I suffer through the pain, through the fatigue, through all of that? It's like you got to find that balance. And the reason why we stay with the medication for her that we're on is because the excess of it goes out through the urine, whereas other anti-epileptic drugs build up in the liver,
Mm-hmm.
and then she would have liver issues. And so if we have to deal with a mood swing here and there, we do, right?
Yes, I've
Number
seen.
seven. Number seven. Let me do that for you. Independence and control are two of the most important things lost after a brain injury. Yes, it
Mm,
may be easier to do things for your loved one. Yes, it may be less frustrating, but encouraging your loved one to do things on their own will help promote self esteem, confidence, and quality of living. Can also help the brain recover faster. All right.
mm.
And these are the last two. What, again, people, what not to say to people with a brain injury. Number 8, try to think positively.
Come on now. You have to. Next.
That's easier said than done for many people and even harder for someone with a brain injury. Repetitive negative thinking is called rumination, and it can be common after a brain injury. Rumination is usually related to depression or anxiety, and so treating those problems may help break the negative thinking cycle. And the last one, what not to say to a person with a brain injury: you're lucky to be alive.
Oh my God.
This sounds like positive thinking, looking on the bright side of things. But be careful. A person with a brain injury is 6 times more likely to have suicidal thoughts than
There it
someone
is.
without a brain injury.
Due to that medication they're taking.
Yes. So, those were 9 things what not to say to someone. So, that is our experience with a traumatic brain injury that is not due to a concussion, and is an invisible illness. It is because, you know, there's nothing on the outside. Like, she doesn't wear like a post-it note that says I have scar tissue right here. You know what I mean? So that's all I have on the subject.
Oh my gosh. You just reminded me, young lady I know, lives with lupus, um,
Mhm.
pulled up in a parking lot, has her handicap sticker, and the police were harassing her because she got out of the car. She looks fine. She
Right.
doesn't look like there's anything wrong with her. Why do you
Right.
have a handicap sticker? She had to actually deal with that in court.
Yeah. It's
Um,
stupid. It's
People
stupid.
see you all the time, with your sticker. They don't know what your illness is. It's not always physical. So when you think
Right.
about invisible illnesses, think about the harassment people get. They
Hmm.
see you parking in certain places, or ain't nothing wrong with you. You have no idea,
Right.
what energy it took for somebody to actually get out of the bed and go to the store, and here you are causing them stress
Yeah.
because you wanted that spot and you don't even, it's wild.
It's true. It's true. It's true. So,
I do have something for you.
oh,
uh, Remember you said you didn't have a book, but this
oh, right.
is
That's right.
an excellent read. um it was actually renamed. Tell you what was it? What was The Healing Companion was the original name of this book. um
Okay.
How to Heal: A Guide for Caregivers by Jeff Kane. This is an excellent resource for anybody who takes care of anybody. If you are a caretaker, this
Yeah.
is excellent. I think I've read it twice and a
Hmm.
half.
Twice in a half.
Twice and a half before
Yeah.
it was rebranded, I guess,
Yeah.
renamed. This is an excellent addition to your library journaling time.
Yeah.
Solitude time. Oh, solitude.
Oh,
Let's talk
hey,
about
good
solitude.
segue. Hey, that's a great
Excellent
segue.
segue.
Look at
But this
you.
is an excellent companion, the healing companion, for those who are caretakers. National Solitude Day just passed us by on March
Did.
26th. And Solitude Day is not just for introverts and the antisocial. It is not. It is not just for some of us. It gives us the freedom to discover that having moments alone with ourselves can work wonders for our mental health. So I wanted to give you some benefits of solitude. And there is a difference between solitude and loneliness. In
Mm-hmm.
my research, I kept seeing those terms because solitude comes from a word that meant loneliness. But it is not defined as that. It is defined as the feeling of being content when you are by yourself. It is a choice to be alone. And loneliness is defined as a negative state that makes you feel disconnected from other people. It
Mm-hmm.
is a sense of isolation. So that is the difference. Choice to be alone, sense of isolation.
Yeah.
So some of the benefits of solitude
Oh,
helps to develop a better understanding of who you are.
mm-hmm. It's
It's
true.
time to sit and think. We'll do that. It gives you time to do things that you love. Because when you're living with other people, sometimes that gets lost,
Yep.
especially if you are a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Always taking care of other people, you neglect your own needs. It gives you the space to just exist without the normal expectations that come with work, family, and friends.
Mm-hmm.
The space to just exist. Who knows how to just be? Can you just be?
Dogs,
The cats. Can
cats, especially cats.
just be. It can decrease anxiety and depressive thoughts. Solitude. We talk about the benefits of solitude. And the fifth one, it gives you time to regenerate and reset. I don't know about you, but if I have been around people, if I have been peopling, if I have been outside, I
Yes.
need to be by myself for a
Yes.
period of time. And
Yes.
part of that is resetting. That is
Mm-hmm.
part of my reset. I need to shake it out, get it off me. I need to be
Yeah.
by myself.
There
Um,
is, I would say, I can count on one hand the amount of people that I can be around that I don't need to have a reset because they are my people that I just thrive with. You're on there. You're one of my fingers.
oh, I'm so
You're on there. You know what I mean? Like I don't need a like there's some people I don't need a reset, but then there's some people where I just need to see the phone number and it's like, good Lord, I need to reset already. It's like I can't.
just the ringtone.
Just I can't.
I had to program some ringtones so I would know before
Oh
oh
God.
God, oh
Yeah.
God, from
Yeah.
across the room. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Time to regenerate and reset.
Yeah.
Fun fact:
Ooh, fun fact.
men are wired to need solitude.
That's why they have
It
their
is
man
where
caves.
man cave. It
Man
is
cave.
where they find peace, quiet, solace, and a connection to the soul. Men are wired to need solitude. Very interesting. Since
Yeah.
he had to be put to sleep to form woman. Lay down, be still.
See?
There he
Maurice is on
is.
there. He's like, great.
Need solitude.
Oh, we
Hence,
finally said something that got
right,
him
you say
interested.
something.
Like, there you go. We
Um,
need our man cave.
right, hence the man cave. And that's her. It is a cave. It is dark. It is away from
Yeah.
other activities in the house. It's in the basement. It's upstairs. It's the garage. It's away from you.
So we,
Who is
yeah.
you? Women,
Yeah. Yeah.
kids,
Exactly.
animals. It's away. It's away
Yeah.
from you.
Yeah.
Um, so that leads us to believe that women are more social and
Yeah.
require more connection.
It's draining.
And if you've ever read men are from Mars, women are from Venus,
I
you will see
never read that book, but I seen the book. I just my mother had that book, but I never read it.
it's an old book.
It
I
is an
hope
old
you've
book.
done something new with it. But there's so many differences between men and women. That's definitely one of them. Women want more connection. We will have a whole conversation with you while the game is on. We don't care.
And that's when they
We know
get
you're
to the
watching.
man
We
cave.
know you're
Like,
watching the game. We're watching the game with you, but something, and I wanted to share. I wanted to share. Just wanted to, while it was on my mind, I wanted to
yeah,
share.
y'all tune us out anyway. It's all right.
Yes, yes. So that's very interesting. So how to practice solitude on solid? I know Solitude Day just passed a few days ago, but how can you practice solitude this weekend? It's Thursday, so we get
Ah,
happy
it's already
Friday Eve.
Thursday. Woo.
Stretching,
Oh yeah,
exercise,
yoga.
meditation,
Namaste.
reading,
There you go.
writing or journaling, or praying.
Mm.
What would you add to the list?
Oh,
How to practice solitude. Things you enjoy doing by yourself. I would add cooking.
a bath, a
Oh,
bubble bath with candles in a
soaking.
locked bathroom, soaking in a bath with
Damn, you
music.
got to lock the door. Okay.
Lock the
Candle,
door.
music.
Did no sound other than the music.
Is it still solitude if the music is on?
Yes, because you're in your happy zone.
You
There's nothing that has to be
didn't
quiet.
say quiet.
Solitude.
You're right. You're right. You didn't
There was
say
nothing
quiet.
about being quiet.
Okay.
Honestly, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes just sitting in my car in the garage,
Listen, I've been telling
especially
people for years.
in the meat of the pandemic, in the trenches of the pandemic. I mean, thank God we moved into this bigger house, because if we were in our old house, there'd be some members not alive right now. But there were times where I literally would just sit in my car, just sit in my car in the garage. It was quiet, nobody but me, so I could collect my thoughts
The
and
window was
just
was open, right? The window was open. The car wasn't
no.
running.
Car was not running. It
Okay,
literally was not running. I was literally just in
in
the
the
car
garage.
in the garage just to get quiet and just like a
Wow.
break. Sometimes it's just that. Even going on a drive, that's your solitude. You can go on a drive
Okay.
by yourself,
Drive.
you know.
I was just chatting about road trips. I was
Yep.
having that chat on my way home. And I said I'm itching for a road trip. Haven't been before the pandemic. I think the furthest place I've ever driven, me driving, was probably 6 hours going
Mm,
to Louisville. That's the
okay.
furthest I have driven behind the wheel. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I love being in the car. My commute every day is 45 minutes every day. And I was just
Ugh.
telling somebody at work this today. It's never for me.
Yeah.
It is always pleasant.
Yeah.
Even when the weather's bad, it's pleasant. I'm not in traffic. Rarely am I in traffic and I might be coming home, and that's only like if it's a bunch of snow or ice. Rarely am I in traffic. 45
Yeah.
minutes there, maybe 50 minutes home, depending on traffic. But
Yeah.
no, or depending on the weather. But no, I'm never, bumper to bumper.
Yeah.
It's always pleasant. I pass through all these different communities. It's amazing to see the South Side transform into the West Side. It's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
and if take another route, you passing through the suburbs, like, oh, this is a lovely mansion. Oh, there's a two flat. It's fascinating. It's enrichment for
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
then certain days I'll take a different route. That's my
Yeah.
enrichment. But
Yeah.
My drive is always pleasant. You know, my car is my sanctuary. You know, it's also the
See,
concert hall.
that's your solitude
The
right there.
concert hall. You know, no one
Yes.
is in my unless I go get mama. Nobody's in my car. So I never have people in the car. So it's
Oh,
always weird. You know, it's like my goddaughter and her brother, that might have been it outside of my
yeah.
mom. So the a couple of the road trips that I've had to take were fashion related or pageant related or whatever.
Mm.
And it was somebody else in the car. And it's like there are people in here. It's like, I'm not used to people.
Why are you
People,
in my safe
why are
space?
you
Why
in
are
my
you in my
can you move
sanctuary?
your head? I can't see this mirror. But
Maurice, what about you? Outside of a
drive,
man cave, what
yes.
is solitude for you? I want to
What do
know.
you add to the list?
Whoever's
Give me the
watching,
male's
I don't
perspective.
even know who's watching right now because I don't have my Facebook up or
Right.
YouTube,
So
but
we got cooking,
throw it
soaking,
out
candles,
there.
music, being in the car, driving. What else? What else is solitude? What else would you consider
Having a
solitude?
whole movie theater to yourself. Man, look.
Movie theater.
Yes, because I went and saw anyway, it doesn't matter what I went and saw, but I had pretty much the whole theater to myself and it was great. I think it was me and like two other people, but everybody had their own row and it was like the reclining seats that are heated. Oh,
Oh, I
great,
love the changes to the
great,
theater now. Just
great.
push me back. Push me back.
Right? Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Solitude. Come on, we need this male's perspective. What do you
Yeah.
consider? What would you add to this list?
Yeah.
But
Other
that
than
was
just the man cave. Going to the
mine.
movies. So see?
Okay. Going to the movies. So by yourself.
And
I've
and
never been to the movies by myself.
you should do it sometime. And I
Because this
bet
is
that
my
it's
this
even a
is my home
bonus when you get the
theater.
whole well, I think it's even a bonus if you go to the movies by yourself and you get the whole theater to yourself. It's like boom.
Like you gotta go to the 10 o'clock show on a
I
Tuesday.
did. I went to an 11 o'clock show on a Friday. Literally it was
See,
me and like I said, two other people, but they were in like their own like rows. So I basically had the whole thing to myself. It was
that's
great.
cool.
I had my own popcorn. I didn't share that with anybody. Look, go try it. Try going to a movie by yourself. It's actually kind of fun.
That's
I'm
interesting.
with Maurice on that one. I'm with Maurice
I
on that
might
one.
put out. I'm gonna put that on my list. It
Because
feels weird, but
the other thing is, and
yeah.
I'm sure he's thinking this too, you don't have someone leaning over, what's gonna happen? Like asking questions every 2 seconds, or who's that? Who's that? Because I know for a fact I am so guilty of doing that, but only when we're at home.
You say
If we're watching,
you're the one
I'm
to be
guilty of
asking
doing it,
questions.
but only when we're at home. If we're at a movie theater, I won't do that. But if we're at home and it's a movie that he's seen already, and I have to be like, what? And he just gets so pissed. He's like, "Oh my god, just watch
And
it
see,
and just shut
I
up."
don't watch movies with people that they saw it already. You saw it already.
Yeah,
Next, nope,
yeah.
nope.
Next,
I don't see it.
but yeah, I get like that. And who was that again? And I'd be like, "Oh my god, just watch, just watch. Your questions will get answered." But I get
Hilarious.
impatient. I'm like, but I need to know. This is exactly why he will not let me see the that last Avengers. He's like, until you watch all of the other movies leading
You
up to
have
that.
to. You have to.
I
And
know, but
we
I'm
went.
like, there's
Yeah, I
got to be
went
some I
back.
can skip. There's got to be
We
some I can
made it
skip.
our business to go back and do all of that before the Black Panther 2 came out. We went back and watched everything in order. We skipped Black Panther because we need to see that again. We watched everything else. And then it
Man,
was like, oh, you needed to know that stuff.
I know.
It's
And
some
so
it's some of them. It's like I don't need to ever see this again. But for the most part, I'm saying like, hey, for
like
the
I
most
don't
part,
know if I could sit
you
there and
needed to
do that
see
though.
it.
That's a
You
lot.
needed
That's
to
like
see it. It was
a
fun though. It
million
was fun.
hours of Marvel.
It is. It is. That's the after show. You know, it is.
Like, right. Oh,
It was
I
worth
know.
it.
And I'm like,
And
there's
it was
gotta
movies
be
I had never
some,
heard of. You
there's
pull
gotta
that
be
list
some
up,
I
you
could
ain't
skip
never heard of the
over.
movie.
There are some I have to be able to skip over.
No,
I
no,
cannot, I don't need to
no.
see.
Yes,
He
you do.
said he said I don't need to see Iron Man 3. He's like, really, Iron Man 3 is just it doesn't
Yes,
count.
you do. Oh
No, he's
my,
like,
that's
you
if
don't
you
need
don't
Iron
skip
Man
over
3.
anything, skip over them Gardens of the Galaxy. But You know, Jessica Cage would not approve of my
No,
statement.
she would not. She would
I
not.
don't need to see those again.
Uh,
But again, you needed to see that because Thor and
yeah,
Thanos. You needed to see those. So just
whatever.
follow the
Well, we
list.
got off
Follow the
topic
list.
now. We went from solitude to
I
talking about
know, but we were
Avengers.
talking
So,
about going to the movies now.
right, it's true.
You reminded me. I've been eating by myself.
Oh,
I have gone out a couple of times. It was usually breakfast, but I have gone out a couple of times solo. It is
okay.
unfortunate that it's certain problems, when you're a woman and you're out eating by yourself. It's different reactions. You get either people trying to talk to you or people trying to make conversation, or they assume you waiting on somebody, they assume you got stood up. They acting like they feel sorry for you because it's like, please, I just want my waffle. Can I get my waffle? I don't need small talk, but it's a plethora of drama that comes with a
Yeah.
woman going out by herself. But breakfast is easier. I have learned that breakfast is much easier than trying to go to dinner. It's like I'll pick it up curbside before I sit, uh, somewhere
Somewhere.
and eat and have to deal with all of that drama. And oh,
Honestly,
just you. Oh,
yeah.
one. You know,
I'm okay with it. You know
oh
what?
my
Vic has a hard time with going out to eat by himself. Like he would say to me, and one of his other friends goes out by himself all the time. He's like, it's just so weird. Like, I'm like, why is it weird? You're taking
God.
yourself out on a date. Just like enjoy that time with yourself. You know
And
what I
keep your
mean?
phone down. I that's
Yeah.
hard for me. It's like
People watch. I'd
I'm
love to
doing this
people
stuff.
watch and like
See,
try to
no,
figure
see, I'm
out.
not because I want you coming over here and talk to me. No, I can't.
Well, no, you do it without making eye contact. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways to do it. And it's kind of fun because then you can make up your own stories about them in your head. Like, oh,
Oh, I do that anyway.
but-
Especially the waitresses.
oh Lord, oh God.
But
Anyway,
that's a good
yeah,
addition. So movies
yeah,
and eating. Excellent.
eating. Yep.
All right. So
All
try
right.
something different this month.
Yeah.
Try something different. I'm candles and soaking and all that. I can do all of that. I might try movies. I might
There you
try to
go.
go to the movie. I have no idea
Right.
what's at the show. The show. I have no idea what's at the show.
Because
Um,
they rotate in and out so fast. They're in the theater, and the next week they're available on HBO Max or
on Netflix. It's like, come on.
Netflix. It's like, all right, well,
I might try that. I might try that.
yeah.
Although it is warming up, which means it is time to hit the walking trail.
Warming up where?
Um,
It like literally
depending on
snowed
what,
yesterday.
depending on what
I was like,
it
what?
did snow in the morning,
I
and the
was like,
sun
what
was
is
out
this?
in full
Yeah.
effect when I got off, like nothing happened. So
I
it is
can't.
warming up. So between now and the next show, I'll hit the walking trail for sure.
Okay. And
That I can do. I can do that myself.
our next show is going to be on April 27th.
That's what you say.
Thursday,
Right.
April 27th will be our next show. And we're just going to surprise you about what we're going to talk about.
Because we don't know right now.
Because we don't know yet. Mostly because we don't know yet, but we will have it figured out by then.
That's fine. By the time we have April figured out, we'll know May too.
Exactly.
So
and May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So that makes it easier.
See, I should have
Yeah.
worn this. I gotta wear something different now. I wore my
It's all
shirt.
good.
Can I wear this in May?
You got till May. You can do it in May.
Can I wear it again in May?
Yeah, go ahead. We don't get judged on our
I gotta find another shirt.
wardrobe. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Wish I had thought about that. All right.
Anyway,
Well,
thank you all for joining us. Whoever joined us,
Mentali-Tea.
Martha. And yes, thank you for joining our Mentali-Tea, and I hope you had a good tea. And yeah,
See you in April.
See you in April. Peace, y'all.